When I was 21, I took a house-sitting job for a couple who were flying out to visit family. 3 nights. Feed the cat, water a few plants, bring in the mail. Easy money. The house was in a quiet neighborhood where every lawn looked copy-pasted, and the streetlights hummed like old fluorescent bulbs. The couple showed me around, spare key under the ceramic frog, breaker box in the garage. Don't worry if the attic light blinks, it's finicky. They said that last part like it was nothing. The first night I got there around 8. The house had that empty home sound. Heating clicking, pipes contracting, the faint tick of a wall clock somewhere. I let their cat, Fennel, rub against my leg while I poured kibble. He ate like he was apologizing to the bowl. I turned on a couple lamps and settled with their TV for background noise. At 10:30 I heard footsteps above me. Not cat footsteps. Not my imagination. Slow, measured steps that creaked across the ceiling from one end of the house to the other. The TV was low, but the footsteps were louder. I paused the movie. The sound paused, too. I remember my brain gave me 3 options in a row. It's the house. It's the wind. It's a raccoon. Then the attic light flicked on. I didn't even know there was a light up there, but I could see the glow push through the ceiling seam of the attic hatch in the hallway. It pulsed once like a heartbeat, then steadied. The couple's words came back to me. Finicky. I laughed out loud, the kind of laugh you do to convince yourself you're fine. Fennel didn't look fine. He sat in the hallway and stared up at the hatch like he'd just learned a new word. I called the husband, no answer. I wasn't going to open the attic. I'm not that person in a horror movie who climbs into the crawl space with a butter knife. I locked the back door, locked the front door, checked windows, then slept on the couch with the TV on a quiet loop of some cooking show. At about 2 in the morning, the attic light snapped off, just clicked into darkness. The house exhaled. I fell asleep. Day 2 went normal. Work in the morning, back to the house at dusk. I brought mail in, a catalog, a bill, a handwritten letter I didn't open. The sun drained out of the street like someone pulled a plug. Inside, I fed Fennel and microwaved a burrito and told myself last night was electrical. When the footsteps started again around 11, I stood up before I realized it. They were heavier now, more certain. I stared at the attic hatch and felt that animal cold behind the ribs. The light blinked on. There's a ladder attached to the hatch, the folding kind that tucks in. I added a chair beneath it, a bad idea in retrospect, like a stage waiting for a performer. I took my phone and dialed the husband again. He answered this time, sleep rough in his voice. I told him carefully that something was going on in the attic. He made a confused sound and said, "Oh yeah, that light's weird. It flickers when the AC kicks. There's nothing up there but storage." While he was talking, the ladder creaked. Not loudly, just enough to register that weight had shifted on it. I went very still. I don't think he heard it through the phone. I said, "Could I check? Do you mind?" He said sure if it made me feel better, and reminded me the switch was right at the top. He sounded more awake now. He said he was pulling up their security camera feed to check the outside. I put the phone on speaker, dragged the chair aside, and reached for the latch. My hand was shaking. Fennel watched me from a doorway, his tail puffed. "Okay," I said to the phone, to myself, to the house. I pulled. The hatch door fell open with a wooden sigh. The ladder unscissored down until it kissed the hallway floor. Warm light spilled out of the rectangular hole. Hot dust smell came with it. Old cardboard, old insulation, that attic smell that feels like time. The switch was right there at the top, like he said. I climbed 2 steps, then 3. I could see a few boxes, a plastic Christmas tree, a rolled rug, and footprints. That's the part I replay still, dust scuffed by bare feet. Not old marks. The edges were sharp. You could see the toes. One set led toward the back of the attic where the light didn't quite reach. One set came back. They stopped at the top of the ladder. I looked at the last footprint and saw a wet edge glinting in the light. Not water. It was too dark for that. Thick. "Do you see anything?" the husband asked. I could hear him tapping on a keyboard. "Footprints," I said. There was a pause. Then the outside motion camera pinged on his end. I could faintly hear a chime. "Someone's at the side gate," he said, his voice dropping an octave. "Stay inside. Lock the bedroom if you can." The ladder creaked again, this time with my weight, I think, but the sound behind me answered. The back door knob rattled hard. Whoever was at the gate hadn't bothered with stealth. The knob rattled, then pounded. I scrambled down and ran to the kitchen, heart beating in my neck. I could hear the husband talking, but the words were kaleidoscope pieces. "Police and calling now. Stay away from the doors." I slid down beneath the kitchen island like that would conceal me. Fennel disappeared under the couch. The pounding moved from the back door to the side door into the garage, then the front. A walk a pound like a loop around the house. The footsteps above me, above the kitchen now, kept pace. I listened to 2 sets circling, one heavy, one softer. That's when I realized the soft ones weren't in the attic anymore. They were in the hallway. I held my breath. The soft steps went right to the living room entrance and stopped. The TV lit the room with bluish light. The screen was paused on the face of a smiling chef with a plate of cupcakes. The shadow in the doorway didn't move. I could feel it more than see it. The pounding at the front door hit harder, as if whoever was outside had lost patience and found anger. My phone vibrated in my hand and lit up the underside of my chin. "They're almost there," the husband said. 2 minutes, he might as well have said 2 years. The shadow in the doorway shifted slightly, like someone tilting ahead. I thought of the footprints, bare. I thought of the wet edge. The house was breathing again. Heater, ducts, the clock ticking too loud. The knocking stopped. The silence after was worse. Then I heard the scrape of something on the hallway wall. A fingertip, a nail, slow, almost thoughtful. Red and blue light washed across the blinds. A loud voice shouted outside. "Police!" The front door banged with a different insistence and then burst open. Boots, radios, the crisp Labrador energy of people with flashlights and authority. In the confusion, the hallway was empty. The attic? Empty. Doors, locked from inside. Windows, still latched. The only new thing. The attic light switch had been turned off by a hand that wasn't mine. And on the kitchen counter, near the cat food, was a small smear in a rusty, drying red. Right next to a handprint in dust. 4 fingers. No thumb. The cops said the outside security camera had captured a man in a hood trying the doors, then walking away when he heard sirens. They never found him. The inside shadow? They said I probably saw my own fear in the TV glow. They didn't dust for prints because of, quote, all the dust already. When the couple came home, we pretended it was electrical. We pretended the heavy steps were the house shrinking into night. I still pretend sometimes until I remember the dust hand on the counter. It had only 4 fingers. And every so often in a quiet house, I swear I hear that thoughtful scrape along a wall behind me. Last autumn, my co-worker's friend asked me to house sit in the suburbs, 4 nights while she went on a last-minute trip. She was a single mom, nice, tired-looking, very detailed. "Please keep the patio door locked," she said. "My ex gets weird sometimes, but he doesn't know you'll be here." She laughed like she wanted that sentence to sound innocent. I'm not a hero, but I've got that overconfident streak from growing up with older brothers. I said yes. Her house was 2-story, gray siding, small backyard with a high fence. I brought my bag, a book, and my old laptop. She pointed out the guest room upstairs, the kitchen code, the Wi-Fi password taped inside a cabinet. She also mentioned, "There's a camera in the guest room. It's off. I use it when my son sleeps in there, when he's sick. You can unplug it if you want." The little white dome sat in the corner near the ceiling, a single eyelash of a lens. I don't love cameras where I sleep, even off ones. I unplugged it and left it on the dresser like a paperweight with a secret. Night 1, silence. Night 2, around 1:30 a.m., a little chime from downstairs. I didn't know her appliances yet, but this was a pretty default ringtone sound. I rolled over, drifted. Then the same chime from my phone, a notification from an app I didn't have. At least I thought I didn't. It was a simple text at the top, "Camera online." I sat up. I opened settings and found a new app listed under permissions. Brand name I didn't recognize. I tapped, it wanted a password. I backed out and checked the Wi-Fi list. There was a hidden network flashing in and out with a familiar MAC address portion. If you've ever paired a smart device, you know that series of numbers and letters that repeats. It matched the sticker on the bottom of the little white camera, the one sitting unplugged on the dresser. Except it was online. I picked it up. No light, no cord. Cold plastic. I felt ridiculous and a little invaded. I took it to the closet and buried it under a pile of laundry basket towels. It made me sleep better knowing it was facing fabric. At 3:12 a.m., the patio door rattled hard. I froze. The rattling turned into a sliding scrape, like someone testing the lock from the outside. The fence should have kept anyone out, but if you really want to get into a yard, you can. I crept to the upstairs hall and listened. The scrape stopped. After a minute, I got my courage and went to the top of the stairs, peering over like a meerkat with a death wish. The patio blinds swayed slightly. Nothing else moved. I texted the mom. "Hey, think your ex might be around? Heard patio door?" She didn't reply. It was late. She might be airborne. I played it safe, turned on the downstairs kitchen light, and went back up. As I passed the guest room, my phone chimed again. Motion detected guest room camera. This time the app notification popped over everything, crisp and smug. I tried to open it and got the same password prompt. I don't know why I did what I did next. Probably a dumb mix of curiosity and ego. But I walked into the guest room and said out loud, "I know you're on." When you're alone at night, your own voice can sound like an intruder. The closet door was slightly ajar where I'd stuffed the camera. I opened it, the towels were on the floor. The camera sat on top of them, pointed at the door. I stared at it long enough for my scalp to tighten. Then I grabbed it and went straight to the bathroom and put it under the sink. I closed the cabinet. I turned on the shower for noise, just steam gulps and white sound, and sat on the toilet lid feeling stupid. That's when the lights in the house went off fast all at once. Deep, immediate dark. The shower stuttered and went quiet. The fan slowed to a stop. Even the fridge made that dying wail sound appliances make when they give up. I could still see the patio blinds downstairs swaying like a metronome in the dark. I called 15, then canceled. I didn't want to be the hysterical house sitter. Instead, I got my car keys, crept down, and went straight out the front door. My plan was to sit in my car on the street and think, call the mom, call anyone, watch the house from the outside where the rules felt different. When I got to my car, I saw a shape move in the side yard, by the fence gate leading to the backyard. It was too tall to be the mom's ex who I'd seen once in a photo. This person ducked just a little when I glanced over, like they forgot how not to be seen. My body sent up the emergency flare. I got in my car, locked it, and decided to drive to the end of the block for service. As I pulled away, my phone lit up on the passenger seat with one more notification. One I think about at least once a week now. Guest room camera, face recognized, Dad. I saw it in my peripheral and felt that sick elevator drop. I drove to the gas station on the corner, called the police from under the fluorescent gods, and waited. By the time a cruiser rolled up to the house, the lights were back on. The officer walked the yard with a flashlight and found shoe scuffs on the fence near the gate and dirt on the patio handle, like someone climbed and jumped. Inside, nothing was broken. The camera was back on the dresser, unplugged, facing the bed. The mom got back the next morning. She looked like she hadn't slept in 2 months. When I showed her the notification, she went white in a way makeup can't fix. "He promised he'd stop," she said too quietly. My eyebrows said everything for me. She told me the camera was still connected to an old account her ex had access to. He was, her words, tech sly, not tech smart, which is a horrible combination. He liked to check in. I wanted to tell her to burn the whole house down and start over, but I just nodded like someone with a useful fix. The cop called later that afternoon to say they couldn't prove who was in the yard. No fingerprints. No damage, no trespass charge that would stick. Could be an animal, he said. I asked him if animals pick passwords and re-enable cameras through hidden networks. He didn't laugh. I never house sat there again, and I still get phantom buzzes on my phone around 3 a.m., like that app is trying to tell me something. I don't have it installed. I've changed phones, but in certain empty rooms, if I stand very still, I swear I can hear the tiniest chime, like a polite doorbell, right before the feeling that someone is looking directly at my face from a corner near the ceiling. I took a house-sitting gig for a cousin of a friend. Yes, I know how that sounds. Because the money was good and the house backed up to a little lake. It was early spring and the weather had that soft, damp feeling like you could squeeze rain out of the air. The place was a modern ranch with clean lines and too many windows. The plumbing is quirky, my friend's cousin warned. If you hear water, it's just the lines. They like to sing. I smiled and said, okay, like water could sing. The first night I noticed a sound in the hallway like a distant shower. I checked all the faucets. Off. I checked the water heater. Fine. The sound moved when I did, fading when I turned, growing when my back was to it like a shy kid following me. I laughed to myself, singing pipes. At midnight the sound got louder, closer. I pressed my ear to the wall. There it was, a glugging inhale, then a whispering rush, then silence. Like someone drinking on the other side. I slept on the sectional in the living room with my bag near my feet. Around 2, rain started. The roof ticked. I woke up to a cold draft across my legs. The sliding glass door to the backyard was open 2 inches. I know I locked it. I remember the slide latch bite under my thumb. The lake was a dark sheet beyond the deck, ripples shivering in the wind. I closed the door and relocked it and told myself I was 90% sure I had locked it before. In the morning I found wet footprints on the hardwood. Bare feet. They came from the hallway and stopped near the sliding door. The size was strange, longer than mine, narrower. Not symmetrical. If you've ever looked at someone's footprint in wet sand, you know how personal it is. These belonged to feet that had never worn shoes right. The heels were strangely thin. I took pictures, because that's what we do now when we don't trust our own memory. By afternoon, the house felt normal. I watered the plants, answered some emails, watched a storm roll across the lake like a moving wall. The power blinked once. The sound of water in the walls came and went like breathing. At dusk, I heard the bathroom in the hallway start to drip. Not the usual drop, drop, but a fast tapping, like someone drumming fingers on porcelain. I cracked the door. The sink faucet was onto a thin stream, like a careful person washing something small. I turned it off tight. When I opened my hand, my palm was damp with that faint iron smell. I washed my hands. While I was doing it, I saw something in the mirror that took a second to make sense. The mirror had fogged slightly around the edges. A circle was clear in the middle where a face would be, like someone had just leaned in close to look. I stepped back and the clear spot stayed. I wiped it. It smeared, not wiped. I turned off the light and stood in the hall listening to the wall water. It was comforting and awful at the same time. That's when the leak started. It came from the ceiling in the hall. A slow, bulging drop that swelled like a blister, then let go. The water hit the floor with that clicky splash sound. I put a bowl under it, then another when a second drip started near the bedroom door. Within minutes, 4 bowls. The roof wasn't that old, my friend's cousin had said so, but water has its own rules. I dragged a ladder out of the garage and popped the attic hatch because of course I did. I told myself I was being responsible. The attic was dry. Dry, dry. Not a damp board, not a soft spot in the insulation. The air was dusty and tasted like old carpets. No leaks, no obvious anything. But below me the bowls kept catching water. I climbed down, wiped my hands on my jeans, and sat on the top step. That's when a voice spoke. Not words, but the sound of a throat working. The closest I can describe it. A murmur like someone trying to talk with their mouth full of water. It came from the other side of the hallway wall, low to the floor. I leaned closer, heart cranking. The sound rose like a boil under wallpaper. Then a thin trickle lifted the paint seam and bled down, clear at first, then faintly brown. I backed up and knocked on the wall, lightly because I didn't want to sound aggressive to a... Oh, the murmur stopped. The bowls ticked with drips. I texted the cousin, "Think you have a leak?" No answer. Rain came harder outside, a steady silver sheet. The lake blurred into the sky. At 11, the water in the wall sound got louder than the rain. I could feel it in my teeth. I checked the sliding door. Locked. I checked the front door. Locked. I checked the bedroom window. Locked. But, and this is important, the screen was wet on the inside. I pulled the cord on the blinds and saw smears on the glass. 5 long streaks like someone with splayed fingers had slid them down from top to bottom, each streak thinner at the end, each leaving a faint reddish-brown trail where it clotted. Something moved in the hall. The bowls were half full now, little moons of reflected light. In one, the water rippled, though nothing had dripped. A concentric ring moved across, then another, as if something below was tapping the bowl from underneath. At midnight, the house went silent, not off. Silent like it had been put under a dome. The rain outside looked loud, but the sound of it felt far away. The wall water stopped. That's when I realized the silence wasn't silence. It was listening. The drip started again, but not from above. From inside the hall closet. A steady tick into something soft. I opened the closet and found a cardboard box on the floor caving in from moisture. The label said, "Old Photos." I lifted the lid and a smell came out. Old glue, old paper, something sweet and wrong underneath. The top photo was a Polaroid of the house from the lake years ago. In the lower corner, a boy maybe 8 years old stood ankle-deep in the water looking up at the window that was now the hall bathroom. He had those long, narrow feet. His hands were in the water like he was washing them. The exposure was weird. His hands were a blur, stretched longer than they should be. Under that, more photos. The same boy in different places in the house. Always near a sink, a tub, a glass, his hands in water. In one, he stood in the hall where the bowl sat now, reaching up toward the ceiling like he was trying to catch a drip. In a later photo, he was older, 12 maybe, his hands wrapped in bandages holding them under a running faucet. My phone buzzed. A text from the cousin finally. Sorry. Bad service at the cabin. Weird about a leak. Don't worry if you hear water, it's normal there. There was a pause. Then another message I could tell was typed and deleted a few times before it finally came through. If you see prints that look like they're missing toes, don't follow them. I read that 3 times. Missing toes. I looked down at the wet footprints by the sliding door in my pictures. The second and third toes on each foot were fused, or just gone. The prints showed 4 marks. My stomach flipped over. I went to the hall bathroom. The mirror was clear now, but when I breathed on it, the circle reappeared in the same spot. My breath had fogged everywhere but that circle, like something colder than the room was still there. I leaned in. For a second, just a twitch of perception, I saw another face leaning with mine. It wasn't an adult's, the eyes didn't line up right. The skin looked puffy, waterlogged like fingers pruned after a bath but whole. I stepped back and the hallway lights dimmed as if a cloud had crossed a sun that wasn't there. The bowls shuddered. One tipped and spilled. The water ran toward the sliding door and pooled there, darkening the wood. The latch on the door clicked once, twice, as though tested from the inside. I called the cousin. No answer. I called again. On the 3rd ring, the sliding door opened itself 2 inches. Cold lake air came in, carrying that algae and rust smell that takes you back to childhood summers and the worst parts of them. Something stepped from the hall into the living room behind me. I didn't hear it. I felt the boards adjust. I felt the temperature drop at knee height like a kid walking by. I said out loud, I'm not here for you. I'm just watching the house. I don't know where I heard that advice. Maybe it's instinct that we announce ourselves when we stumble into someone else's sadness. The house exhaled again. The door slid the rest of the way open. The lake was right there, black as a pupil. The bowls stopped shaking. I stood very still until my calves ached. Then slowly the door slid shut by itself. The latch clicked into place. The water pulled itself along the floor in a thin thread back under the closet, like a vein withdrawing. The lights returned to normal. I didn't sleep. In the gray edge of morning, the cousin finally texted, I meant to say, don't use that hallway bathroom. The mirror is sensitive. He looks for people there. A minute later, it's better if you don't acknowledge. If you do, he gets excited and then the pipes act up. I put the bowls in the sink and drained them. The water had a faint brown tint. In the bottom of one was a piece of something soft. At first I thought it was a leaf. It wasn't. It was a little curl of skin, pale and ridged like the pad of a fingertip. I put it in a Ziploc. I don't know why. 2 weeks later, I mailed the cousin the Ziploc with a note. Found this. She never replied. Months after that, my friend told me the cousin had sold the house. The listing said Lakeside Charmer upgraded plumbing. The new photos online showed the hallway mirror removed, a blank painted rectangle in its place. There was still a faint, darker circle in the paint, like something leaned there anyway. Sometimes when I'm washing my hands, I catch my reflection fog and clear in patches I didn't breathe on. And if I stand in my own hallway very late, very quiet, I swear the drywall hums like a throat trying not to drown.